Newcastle United suffered a damaging defeat against a struggling West Ham side on Sunday in the Premier League, halting the momentum that the Magpies had started to build in the last couple of weeks, with wins both domestically and in Europe. Newcastle were in a similar situation last season, following a loss away at Brentford that triggered a lot of soul-searching at the club, and ultimately inspired them on to win the Carabao Cup and qualify for the Champions League. Whatever was said behind closed doors back then will likely have to be said again following this loss at West Ham, to make sure that Newcastle head towards the festive period with the wind behind them and not against them. Ahead of their next fixture, which comes in the Champions League against Athletic Club of Bilbao, Eddie Howe will certainly have relayed to his players that they must respond, but that they must also be much more consistent going forward, and that big performances cannot just be saved for the big games. To be successful again, they need to compete in all games and on all fronts. Given the loss against West Ham, Howe made clear that man management is very important to make sure that he speaks to individual players in the way that suits them best.
Yeah, I think man management's very, very important, regardless of whether you're winning or losing, because both can be equally difficult. So yeah, I think I try to be very active with the players all the time, very communicative in all kinds of scenarios. Obviously, going into a game, I'd like to think I'll talk to the majority of the players about what's expected of them going into the next game. So yeah, a lot of work done the last few days.
And just how much of a frustration is it to you that when you're going from weekend game to midweek game to weekend game, that you're losing that training time, given how much you enjoy being out on the training pitch?
Sort of got used to that, I think, throughout this season and the season before last, in the respect that the training literally does fall away. And you're training in sort of very small bursts. I think the difficulty really in that scenario is for the players that aren't playing regularly, because they're missing out on the training and the games. So they have a tough season, I think, mentally. I think for the players that are playing, it's slightly easier because you're just going from game to game if they're playing regularly. The challenge for us is to prepare the games well. As I say, the training becomes of less importance.
Dan Burn admitted that Sunday's defeat was not good enough, but backed his teammates to bounce back in a similar fashion to how they did against Brentford last season.
Yeah, I think the gaffer spoke about it, just sort of about having honest reflection. I think it's very easy to just sort of look over results like that and just think, oh, it's just one of those games. But I feel like we've always been very good at being honest with each other and talk about where things aren't going well, or places we can improve, and I think the manager and the staff now well that they'll do absolutely everything possible to make sure that doesn't happen again. And there has, obviously, Brentford last year, I know Bournemouth at home last year, we had some bad results. There's every season that we've been here, there's been sort of that result where there's been a bit of a wake-up call and think come on, we need to get back to what we're doing. And then we've went on some pretty good runs, so I said it's nothing that I feel as a group we're worried about. Obviously I'd love to be sat here and we've won every single away game, but that isn't the case. So for us it's just about how we respond and work towards getting the win tomorrow.
And bridging on one of your previous answers, despite the fact that you're not playing perhaps where you'd like to be playing in terms of the team at the moment, has this been the most enjoyable part of your career, perhaps this calendar year? Yeah,
got to be. I think the sort of play the amount of games I've had, and obviously the cup final and scoring, and we're winning that, and playing international football and representing my country has definitely been the sort of best calendar year I've had. And I don't feel, honestly, that I'm peaking yet. I still feel as if I'm getting better, and physically I feel good. So just want to make it continue as much as possible.
This game will be a welcome one for Newcastle. Bilbao have significant injury problems, and the Magpies will look to exploit that to help regain their confidence. Of course, Newcastle need to do more than just regain their confidence. They need to become an aggressive and determined side once again. They have shown flashes of that this season, but have not demonstrated it enough. Eddie Howe and Dan Burn will certainly know that, and even if they succeed in beating Bilbao, they must also attack Brentford with the same passion, which is next up in the Premier League.